This video covers how to create your own checklists in InspectARide. With InspectARide, you have the ability to set checklists up to have the exact information you want in them. You can either customize an existing template or create a new one from scratch. For this video, we'll be creating a new one from scratch. Creating checklists is done in the template editor in the online portal, which we're looking at right now. The first step is to navigate to the templates section on the left-hand side. If you're on a phone, you may first need to tap on this icon to see the side menu. This brings us to a screen where we can see all the templates currently on our account. If we wanted to modify one of these, we would simply tap on it. Since we're going to create a brand new one, we want to scroll to the bottom of the list and we'll tap on this button for Create Template. Now, we have the option to either start from scratch or to start with one of our existing templates as a starting point. We want to start with an empty template, so we'll keep Start from Scratch selected. Now, we need to give our template a name, and we'll call this Vehicle Check, which we'll type in. Now, let's tap on Continue. We're now ready to start working on our checklist. Before we do anything, let's take a quick look at the key sections of our editor. At the top, we see our template's name, which we can change by simply tapping on it. Below that, we have a spot for the template description and the options to publish the template, save a draft, or to delete it. Next, we have our rating section. After that is the inspection details. This is where the basic information about the vehicle is entered. You can hide items you don't want and add in new items as needed. Lastly, we have the categories and lines section. This is where we can set up the specific checklist items for our template. Let's go ahead and scroll back to the top and get started. We can fill out the description first, and for this we'll enter, this template is for a basic vehicle check. Next, we have ratings. For this template, we'll set up 3 ratings, which will be good, fair, and poor. To add our first rating, we'll tap the Add New Rating button. We can modify the new rating by tapping directly on it. Let's go ahead and change the abbreviation to G, and then the name to Good. We'll enter a description as well. And now we have 3 options that we can select. If we check Make Default, then it would make it so that if we don't enter a rating on a line when using this template, then this rating will automatically be filled out on the report. If we check Summary, then anything marked with this rating will be flagged as an issue and go to the Summary section of the inspection report. And finally, if we check Color Rating, then we'll have the option to pick the color that we want the checkboxes on the inspection report to be that are marked with this rating. For the good rating, we're going to leave all of these unchecked, so that means the rating's set up. To save it, we'll tap this check mark. We can add in our fair and poor ratings following the same process, and we'll go ahead and do that and skip ahead in the video. Since items marked poor are likely to require attention, we'll want to make one last change to this rating before saving it. Let's go ahead and check the summary option so that all items marked poor are flagged as issues and go into the summary. Our ratings are now set up and we're ready to move on to the inspection details section. In this section, we have the basic details about the vehicle. Depending on the type of inspection you're doing, you may need all the details we currently have, or you may need a lot less. You also have the ability to add more details by tapping the Add New button. We're setting up this template for a quick vehicle check, so we actually don't need a ton of information here. In fact, we'll be able to turn most of this off. To turn off an item, you simply need to tap on the On/Off option. So let's go ahead and turn off the items we don't need. So we'll turn off body style, transmission, engine, drive type, client name, interior color, the exterior color, and finally we'll turn off door count. Now that we have the items we want, we can easily change the order by dragging and dropping lines. So let's go ahead and move Inspector to the top of the list. To do this, we'll tap and hold on this icon to the left of the line and simply drag it to the top. Perfect. Our inspection details section is now complete. Lastly, we have our categories and lines section. This is where we set up our actual checklist. You have a ton of flexibility in setting this up, and that there's no limit to how many categories or lines you can add in. For this example, we'll be setting up a pretty short checklist. We only need one category, which you already have, but if you were setting up one where you needed additional categories, you can add these in by tapping the Add Category button. Since we already have a category to start with, we'll want to rename it, and we're going to call it Inspection Items, since this is what we want our category to be called. To do this, we'll tap right where it says Initial Category and change the name there. Now that it's renamed, we'll tap the check mark to save it. Now that the category is named, we can start working on the lines. We already have our first line added in, but we want to call it something other than initial line. We can change the name by tapping on it, and let's go ahead and change this to windshield. Great. Our first line is now set up. To add in another line, we'll tap the button for Add Line. For the new line, we have two different properties to work on. The first is for type, and this is where we can select what type of line we want to add in. Most of the time, you'll be keeping it at rating and notes, but we do have other special line types you can choose from, including text and note, text only, signature, and then yes, no. We'll keep this line as a rating and note line. Below that, we have prompt, and this is the name of the line. We'll tap on this and call it mirrors, and now we'll save it by selecting the check mark. When you add a new line in, it's going to be added in to the bottom of the list. And that's all you need to know on how to add in lines. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead to where we have our whole checklist set up. As you can see, we've set up a checklist with 12 inspection items, and at the bottom here, we have a spot for the signature. Since we've finished setting up the checklist, we're ready to save it and make it available for use. To do this, we'll scroll back up to the top. Here, we have an option for Publish, and we'll tap on that. The moment we tap on Publish, the template will be saved and made available for use on our mobile devices. Let's go ahead and open up the InspectARide app on my phone so we can see our new template. On this screen, we'll tap Start New Inspection. And in our template list, we see we have the option for Vehicle Check, which is the template we just created. Let's tap on it. We'll quickly fill out some sample information, and then we'll tap on Continue. We can now see that the vehicle details is set up with only the information we wanted, and if we tap on the checklist part of the inspection, we can scroll up and down and see the items we set up along with the signature spot at the bottom. This concludes the video on creating your own checklists.